Hi everybody, Jan Bidstrup for Experience More. This week's video is veteran business coach Mr. Rick Carney, an all-time friend of mine, all-time favorite, an incredible facilitator. He interviews Mr. Darren Roberts, and you'll see in this interview that he really has the ability to flow with the interview and get into the nitty-gritty. Mr. Darren Roberts, you will follow his journey right from childhood here in this chat. From when he started working as a 10-year-old, just doing little tasks at home, right down the track to where he's now facilitating and speaking and literally in front of thousands of people, talking about the mindset and psychology about how to have a better life. He will talk about the 4 pillars that he uses to set up a structured life to ensure he doesn't fall back into old and potentially bad habits. He will talk about a very important topic of being present. How do you work life integrate and ensure that you are present with everyone that you are there with. And then he will talk about, passing it forward, taking what you've learned and teach somebody else to get benefits and enjoyments out of it. Really in-depth interview. Think you'll enjoy it a lot. See you next week, guys. Enjoy.
Well, Darren, hello.
Hello, good to see you, Rick.
Hey, and good to see you, Darren. It's been some time since we've caught up face to face, but how you holding up? You going well?
I'm good, yeah, really good, thank you.
Wonderful, that's fantastic.
And here in South Australia.
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate, aren't we, compared to some places?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. So look, I really appreciate you making some time to come on and have a chat with us. So I guess officially, welcome to the Experience More channel. It's really nice to be able to have a chat with you, and I know that everybody who's listening in with this will get some value out of it as well. And so welcome to everybody who's jumped on to have a look at and have a listen to this chat. So by way of introduction for everybody, I'd just love to be able to share a few little things that I know about you, Darren, to give some people some context as such. So Mr. Darren Roberts, he's first of all, I guess, a husband to the amazing Kirsty, which is a wonderful. He's father of a couple of stunning children as well, and one of whom I believe is just a recent licensed driver on the road, which is pretty exciting.
It is, yeah. Passed the test on Saturday, so she's ready to get the P's, and out she goes.
I imagine that's an exciting time in life, isn't it? Awesome.
It is, yeah, absolutely. I was riding that test like it was a footy game.
Yeah, so beautiful Brooke and amazing Blake. And I'm not sure what your relationship with Buddy. I haven't met Buddy, but he's a relatively new or member of the family along the way. And
yeah, so, Buddy's 5, so 5 years old now. So she sleeps a lot on the couch, and big part of the family. She's awesome.
It's awesome. It's fantastic. And so, look, I met Darren quite some years ago as a result of doing some work with Darren's brother-in-law, which is David, which was wonderful. And it's funny how things come together and how we meet people in life, and we've been, I guess, connected on the journey ever since. But I guess, Darren, the part I would love to dig into a little bit, if we can, is, I know you now as someone who works at Impact Training. You have a wonderful email address that I just love. Break the ceiling as a business mindset model, and a phrase that is so powerful, break that false so-called ceiling that we have. And I've always been massively impressed by that when I first met you along the way as a mindset. But I know what you've achieved now and how you've impacted so many people through your training and at Impact Training. You've traveled all around the country and influenced large groups of people. You speak at massive events as a great keynote presenter. So you've got to a place where you influence a lot. But I'd love to go back a little bit and just dig into some of the earlier stuff if we can. So where did your working life, if we should call it that, where did your working life start?
I think it was around the table tennis table in our family rumpus room back at home. My dad was a fitter and turner by trade, and he became production manager at some large organizations. And I remember he was production manager at Stratco, and So my first job was with my best mate Nigel. We were always, mucking around and on the BMXs and going crazy on the bikes. And on the weekends, our first job was to pack the DIY shed, with all the nuts and the bolts and the little bags. So we had to count out exactly how many nuts and bolts needed to go into the bags. And sitting around on a Saturday and Sunday around the tennis table, it's very structured. Trying to stay focused with young kids. And we got, I think it was 20 cents per bag or something like that, to go into the DIY shed builds.
How old were you then?
Around the tennis table in the rumpus room at home.
Awesome. So how old was that? How old were you then?
Oh, gee, I reckon must have been 10 or 11, I would have thought. Something around then. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I think it was, it was about that time. So
you engaged in, some meaningful endeavor, shall we say, and so reward for effort pretty early in your life.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was good to feel that I was contributing to Dad and his, his work as well. So, nice to get that little bit of pocket money, but also, just that pride in doing something and having to get it right and working with your mate Nigel, who has been a really good mate for a long time. So it's a good, lots of positives, and it was good fun.
I know personally your attention to detail and your ability to be able to have processes and systems, and which is always something I've admired. And did that show up at that stage? Was that there early?
Yeah, I think so. I think to do it accurately was important. Otherwise, the customer, buys this shed and suddenly they're a bolt or two short, and we know how frustrating that can be when we're trying to put something together. We certainly had a little bit of process of what Nigel did and what I did and how we packaged that together. But we also had a fun element. We had music playing in the background and we're rocking along to some tunes, trying to stay focused on our counting as well. That attention to detail sort of kicked off around that part.
Nice. So obviously a bit of education system left at that age, a little bit of schooling to go through along the way. So what followed on that in your workspace? Did you continue working all through those years as you were still in the education system?
No, after school I was always passionate about sport and high performance, and did a sports science degree, a long name, exercise and sports science in Bachelor of Applied Science in Exercise and Sports Science. So I think it's called Human Movement now, so a much easier title. But sports science degree, so that was a little bits of information in lots of different fields, including psychology, anatomy and physiology, team leadership, coaching. So it had quite a few elements, obviously elite testing, those sorts of things. And so straight after that, after uni, and while I was at uni, I started to work in the fitness industry. So I did some personal training and work cover rehabilitation for clients and those sorts of things. And so I personal trained probably for 3 or 4 years directly. And then even at uni, I was really interested in the psychology of sport and the psychology of high performance. And then getting into the fitness industry and starting full-time work, I fell in love with the sales and the leadership and the communications part of that industry. So from then, that led me to move out of the structural part of personal training and more into the leadership side of it. So I went into the sales of membership and the personal training, and then some success through there led me to leadership roles, assistant manager, regional manager, state manager, sort of progressing through there. So that was sort of from uni. It wasn't a career that directly came out of what I studied at uni, but that passion for fitness, but then to really combine the leadership and the sales and communication part of it allowed me to do that. And obviously now we still have some fitness industry clients, but we also train traditional corporate businesses and individuals as well.
I'm curious, and I guess to ask you that question, was it something like curiosity? So what was the interesting thing about leadership, sales? They're all pretty people-oriented sort of things. What was the thing that drove you or attracted you to that, do you think?
I think it was around the psychology. I think it was around the understanding that you could have a positive influence on someone, not trick anyone. They're never in a trance. They're always open to their own decisions, but having a positive influence on people. And it's, the fitness industry is a good example in the sense that if we want our community to be healthier, we can't let them make their own decisions. We can't trick them. We can't force them into doing anything, but we can't, even adults, we can't let them make their own decisions. It sounds crazy, I know. But the research shows that, obviously everyone in Australia, let's say over the age of 5, knows that exercising regularly and having good nutrition, amongst other things, increases your energy and increases your well-being and it moves you to a pleasure. But the stats show that about 14% of the population actually do it to an extent that has a positive influence. So if we just let humans make our own decision, that obesity and the sickness and the mental health and the cancer isn't going to improve. So we have to have this influence. And that's what inspired me a little bit from a sales and communication and leadership, because it's always about having a positive influence on people. Now, of course, psychology can be used in non-positive ways as well. But that really drove me. One from, I guess, a sales perspective is to have a positive influence on decision-making of potential customers and clients. From a leadership, to have a positive influence on my team members' actions and outcomes and then career and relationships and those sorts of things. So yeah, to answer your question, I think it all revolves around psychology and how we use our minds.
So a lot of people see that. I mean, we see that in the world. And so I think you probably realize I'm the same. I think leadership is something that's a little short in our world, and it's our duty in many ways to lead where we possibly can. But why do you want to do that? To influence other people. We can leave people to their own devices. So what's the drive of it? What do you get from that? What's the satisfaction for you in being able to lead?
It sounds corny, but I do like helping people. And I think when I'm speaking to a group, they're still, after all these years, is rarely a time where I speak to a group where I don't feel a little bit of emotion at some point. And I don't think the audience can necessarily hear or hear that lump in the throat, but it hits me. Just seeing the response of people in the audience, seeing how the look in their eyes when there's that aha moment. And that's a driver. Tomorrow I do some volunteer work for the Smith family. I'm speaking at a school tomorrow, year 11 and 12 students. And again, I know that's going to come up. I know there's going to be one or more people. And if it's just one, that's fine. If it's more, that's great. That just has that look in their eye going, wow, I learned something, or I was reminded of something, or I broke through. And that feeling is fantastic. But also, most of what I teach is also a reminder to myself of what I need to do in my own life, or what I need to be reminded of, or reinforces something that I'm doing well from a habit or whatever the case might be. So it's also that reminder to yourself to go, I got to do this better, or yes, I'm doing this really well, I've got to keep doing that. So it's that balance of getting a response and teaching other people, but also a reminder for your own personal leadership about, what's going to keep moving you forward.
It's astounding, isn't it? The fact that, and it's something, I think a lesson for my life as well. When you learn something and pass it on, how it actually improves you, how you get so much from it as well. It nearly seems selfish at times. And I think it's one of the reasons why I suggest to everybody, we need to pass things on. We must teach what we've learned, especially if we've had some tough lessons.
And that's a great point. It's selfish not to pass it on, isn't it? If there's something that has had a positive influence on ourselves, it's selfish not to pass it on, because we know there's people that would benefit from it.
So where's that emotion come from? Is that something you got from your parents? Is it something that you're a bit of a standout in your family, or is it pretty normal among your family? Or
I'm not sure. I don't think. I don't think Dad was particularly emotional or didn't show it. Mum certainly is. She cries at the drop of a hat, and she hears a certain song and she'll cry, and it's happy and memories as well. But yeah, she's certainly got that emotional part definitely to her. So yeah, maybe that's where it came from. And I think it's something that I've learnt to hide less and to be proud of. The things that drive you. Even real simple things like I know music's a big part of your life, and music for me is as well. Not necessarily playing it like you sing and in bands, but just listening to it creates this feeling. And a simple example is I remember cranking the music as I drive along in the car and singing along and pulling up to the traffic lights, and someone pulls up next to me and I stop singing. I used to stop singing, but then there was this realization: hang on a sec, this makes me happy. It brings me joy. I don't care what the person next to me thinks. I'm going to just keep pumping it out. So, it's just those little things. Okay, what drives you? What gives you a good feeling? Makes you happy, and that's the same with emotions.
Awesome.
To be more willing to share them and hide them less when the time is right.
Well done. So you're that weird guy at the lights that I see occasionally. Rocking on.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. And it's always, it's often old school music. Kirsty, my wife, keeps bagging me about listening to the same music from 20 years ago, but it gives me a good feeling. So
yep,
yeah,
a little bit of Powderfinger never hurt anybody.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
I think that's stunning. Being the example, and one of the things that, as I've known you, is that you are good at walking the talk. And you mentioned it before about when we teach how it actually improves us and makes us better. It seems to me, you are consciously or unconsciously looking to be that example for your family, your children, and for the rest of the people around you. So there's an element of discipline that I see there. So is that something that's been with you all the way through? You appear to be a disciplined individual. Is that the reality?
Is it the reality that it appears to be? Possibly.
Well, no, so is it the reality that you are disciplined? Yes. Sorry,
no,
question.
It's not the reality that I am. I could very comfortably sit on the couch all day and watch supercars or V8s or a Grand Prix, or I could lose a whole weekend doing that. So no, I need to work hard at creating habits.
Yeah.
To keep me
what
productive.
Drives that, Darren? What drives that then? Obviously there's something that has to drive you, because you don't have to. The reality is you can sit on the couch all weekend. I'm sure there are people who do that, and good luck to them. That's okay. But so why don't you?
Yeah, and sometimes that's the right thing to do, depending on what you need. But it's the little motto of living to my potential. And it comes back to goal setting, and there's 4 pillars to my goal setting: wealth, relationships, lifestyle, health, and fitness. And so that reminder of sitting on the couch all day might help one of those 4 at times, but not the rest. So I need to be strong, and I've created some good morning routines and habits around me, learning from you and other people. I don't think any of it I've necessarily created myself. I've just taken bits and pieces of listening and learning and reading and those sorts of things to find what works best for me, to put me in the right state of mind, to set some goals and to be proactive in doing it. So I think the discipline is a forced discipline, because without that, time could easily fly by and not be achieving some things.
It's a decision. So you've made a decision to put discipline into your life, it appears, which is profound, which is wonderful. And I think that in itself is a wonderful lesson. I'm certainly not disciplined naturally, and I don't know that anybody is necessarily on the planet, but I'll leave that to everybody who's listening to decide for themselves.
And I think just on that, Rick, as well, I think some people were disciplined in a certain area to the detriment of some other areas. So for me, I mentioned those 4 pillars of my lifestyle and goal setting, and it's that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that has been a big thing for me, is that awareness. I don't think the work-life balance is ever really a thing. I think the scenario that you've probably heard before is like riding a bike. If you're stationary on a bike, you're going to fall over most of the time. Where to be balanced, you've got to be moving forward. But it's that balance of, I remember, especially early in my career, even in business with Kirsty in the early days, we'd work apart, and she's a nurse and a midwife, and and so never had been involved in business. And I was so excited. I talk about business all day, every day to my clients and my staff and all those sorts of things. And I come home from work and we'd see each other for the first time. And, you know, I was so excited about it. One of the first things I'd say, oh, Kirsty, how'd you go contacting this person? Did you do this follow-up? And of course, it didn't get a great response. So it's making sure that's balance of, you know, that connection and relationship side of it, as well as the business side of it. And even with the kids, you know, for a long time, I could be at one of their events, you know, a performance or a sporting event, and be thinking about work. And then when I'm at work, I'm thinking about, the kids training or whatever the case might be. So one of the massive things for me was that bit of compartmentalizing, or the quietening of the mind, and learning some skills to be able to go, okay, when I'm here 100%. And I can be focused on, you know, the kids or the Kirsty or whatever is happening right now. And then when it's time to do work, I can, you know, be 100% focused on that, and not be having that lots of thought. Or when I want complete silence and no chatter, you know, some skills to be able to do that, because again, my habit would be lots of self-talk, lots of chatter, pretty busy up there.
Well done. A smart, moving brain. I'm curious then, obviously you've developed these 4 pillars. You know, that sounds like a really strong foundation for the life you're trying to design, or you are designing or have designed. And so where did the inspiration come from for that design, to do that in the first place? I mean, I'm blessed to be able to have learned as well, life's to be designed rather than it happened by accident. And so I totally agree. And I think I know where I got it, but where did that, how did that arrive for you? What informed it?
I think from a people of influence, you know, Darren Hardy, as you well know, and a lot of people listening would have exposure to Darren Hardy, the author of The Compound Effect. He's, again, as many of you know, American guy, success author, speaker. You know, so his Compound Effect book and audio is something that I've used for a long time. And I think initially, you know, I understood I understood goal setting. Maybe that comes from a sporting background. You know, without the goals, you don't take the action. So I understood goal setting, but I think for a long time I had way too many goals. So if you've got too many, well, maybe they get missed. And some of that compound effect, and other leaders was talking about, you know, fine tune. What are the key things? So that brought me to those 4 pillars. But my goal setting year after year, it's a written goal setting, but it's just got smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. Not because I'm smashing all those goals, but just because those priorities and what is important to you gets fine tuned. I think from a personal perspective, you know, my dad worked all his life, sacrificed to, you know, to retire and travel Australia with mum and all that sort of stuff. And so he just worked flat out, didn't necessarily have holidays or go away or experiences. And maybe that was his experience for him. I don't know, but you know, he got crook, died at 55, didn't get to enjoy that retirement. So it's also that little bit of a balance of, okay, you know, what are the 4 pillars that is a happy lifestyle for me, not waiting for 65, 70 or whatever to retire and then enjoy life. What do I need to do now to have that balance of, working hard for career and wealth and that side of it, but also look after health and wellness, relationships, and have a lifestyle now that gives me experiences and those sorts of things rather than just one pillar to focus on.
Wonderful. It's often the challenges and the difficult things in life that inform us and allow us to make stronger decisions along the way, sadly. But maybe that's the way it's meant to be as well. So I guess that as you touch on that point, it's such a sad thing losing your dad so young. It's how much has challenge and difficulty, or shall we call them failures, even if you like, not that I like to use that word necessarily, but how much is that side of life informed and led you to where you are?
It's a great question, because for a long time, and sometimes in personal development, it's all about the positive, isn't it? It's to think positively. If you think of a negative, turn it into a positive straight away. And for the most part, I completely agree with that. In sales and leadership, we talk about, yes, emotions are 100% of decision making, but avoiding a pain, avoiding a negative is the greatest motivator to take quick decisions. And Dad's a good example of that, right? He was a typical Aussie bloke, born in the 40s, late 40s, would have laughed at mindfulness, meditation, even nutrition and physios and chiropractic, even going to the GP, right? So moving towards a pleasure, even though Dad and many others knew that would be good for them, it just didn't take place until there was a pain, which was him getting cancer. Avoidance of pain is the greatest motivator to make a change. Once he understood and was diagnosed with cancer, even though he had symptoms before that, once he understood the ramifications of what he was going through, he took massive action. He listened to meditation and dolphins and went to psychologists and went to nutritionists and did everything possible under the sun that he wouldn't have done just moving towards a pleasure. I remember his skin literally turning orange because Mum was juicing so many juices and following the nutritionist and naturopath's advice that his skin literally turned orange. So I do believe that it's not just about thinking positively. I do believe that for the majority of the time. But I think we also need to at times think about what are the ramifications of not taking the action. So we can think positively about whatever, I'm getting fitter, I'm getting healthier, I'm getting richer, I've got this lifestyle. I absolutely believe in visualization and all those sort of things, but it's also a time to say, gee, just for a short period of time, if I don't make the changes now, where will I be? What are the ramifications of not doing anything? So, I think it's that seesaw. If there's things that we want to achieve, which takes action, and neither of those actions we really like, we'd rather it just turn up straight away, our lifestyle or our wealth or our health or whatever the case might be. It's that balance of the pendulum for decision. So if you're on a seesaw and the pain of doing the action, making the calls, doing the whatever, doing the exercise, whatever it might be, the pain of taking the action is higher than the pain of the ramifications, then you won't do it.
Yeah.
So we got to tilt that. We got to make the pain, understand the pain of ramifications being higher than the change of actions. Now that comes from two things. One, it comes from maybe reducing the realization of how important or how hard those tasks are, but it also comes from, reinforcing what is the pain of not doing the action. Now, just for a short term, because we know from mental health, we don't want to sit in pain for long periods of time, but to help stimulate action, what's my life going to look like in whatever 2, 5, 10, 20 years if I don't start those habits right now? So long-winded way probably of answering your question, Rick, but I think that understanding that pain, learning from other people's pain, understanding the potential pain of ramifications is significant at times, and then from there it's reinforcing the positives and thinking positively.
Wow, Darren, that's profound in my view. I totally agree, and I love your principle is visit the pain, feel it, use it as a lever, but don't live there.
No, correct. Yep.
Visit, but don't live.
Absolutely.
I think that's absolutely massive. We tend to block it and not deal with it. So wonderful lesson in life. And I'm guessing that probably feeds into an earlier question. Those are the things that informed your 4 pillars, most likely, from what I can gather. Excuse me, some of that along the way. Well done. I was going to ask you about philosophies in your life, but I think we've heard a few really already. I mean, those pillars are probably fairly philosophical points. But is there just an overarching philosophy that you live by?
It's to be ambitious and content.
Wow.
Which is, as you probably know, it's not my creation, those words. I think it might even be a Darren Hardy thing anyway. But to be ambitious and content, I think it's rare. I think many people that are really ambitious, and we spoke about those 4 pillars, might just have that one pillar, and they go hard to the detriment of other things in their life. And then there's many people that are completely content, but don't drive for anything further, don't have any passions that they're driving towards. So I think that balance of being ambitious and content, so, being really look for the things that you have gratitude for right now. What are the great things in your life that you're really happy for? But also, what else would you like? What else do I want to achieve? And balancing those two. And part of that comes through, those daily habits, doesn't it? As having some structure to do some reflection and really reinforce what your gratitude is and what you're thankful for. But then also to remind yourself, what are your goals are and what action do you need to do to drive today? So that would be a great balance, and it's something that I don't think you ever necessarily achieve. It's always something that you're juggling a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit aspirational, isn't it? I love that because, I mean, many people listening may be the same, because I thought they were mutually exclusive. I didn't think you could be satisfied or grateful for what we had now and be ambitious for the future as well. But they can be, can't they? They can line up together. I think that's a wonderful aspiration, wonderful goal, both together. Look, I really appreciate you sharing some time with us today. It's just been lovely. I could dig in a lot more, but you've shared so much of your time already. I'd love to know if there is, as we close out, if there is just, a lesson in life that's really been transformational for you. Is there one thing, it may not be, but is there something that you've learned, you go, wow, that just dramatically changed my world?
Yeah, I do. I think it's controlling my thoughts, and we sort of touched on it previously. And sometimes it's called NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And as you know, there's lots to it. There's a gentleman, Alan Parker, who's based in Sydney. He's #1 negotiation trainer in the world, very qualified NLP trainer, and I've done a lot of work with him. I've been fortunate to work with him every month and do some collaboration with him as well, from a business perspective. But he teaches a lot about that NLP. And as I said to you before, initially for years, my mind races, and quite often it's being aware of a negative thought and turning it into a positive and that sort of stuff. And that's wearing. It tires you out. Even though they're positive thoughts, often that busyness of my brain was tiring and probably lacked focus. So something to understand how to quieten my own brain has been really valuable. So initially it was just understanding from an NLP perspective, the simplicity of broad focus and just how to use your eyes. So I can look at you, Rick, and if we were face to face, and I can be really looking you very strongly in the eye, or I can do what I'm doing now, which probably doesn't look any different. I'm still looking at you, but I'm noticing everything else around me. I can see the bookshelf to my right. I can see the printer to my left. So just changing that focus and having a broader visual focus quietens the brain.
Wow.
And just silences it. And then, probably only in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, that ability to live in the now is the talk, isn't it? Is to be at the kids' events or sporting and just focus on that and not be distracted, or to be at work and not be thinking of other things. And things like meditation is something that I've done over the last 4 or 5 years. Real simple, nothing too deep, but some guided meditation as part of daily habits. I think that and controlling my own mind has probably been one of the most powerful things that I've learned and being able to implement, because it affects so many other things. It affects all those 4 pillars and communication and relationships and a whole lot of things.
Wow, wonderful. I appreciate you sharing that. Yes, the ability that we can choose our own thoughts and a strategy. I love the vision. That's cool. Really nicely shared. Darren, thank you again for focusing in for a bit of time with us and sharing. And I know you want to be able to get back to your family, because you've given up time on the weekend to be able to share with us, and that's wonderful. I wish you all success, and I'm very grateful for having you in my life, because it's good to be around people who have chosen to influence others. I like being associated. We don't see each other a lot, but it's wonderful to have seen your journey and how you now do influence so many people for the greater good. And whether you realise it or not, I think you do that less than professionally, you do that when you're not in your professional role as well, because of who you are as a human being. And so I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. And to you as well. We've known each other for what, over 11, 12 years, and your leadership, not only in business but as a friend, has been significant and had a real positive influence on me and Kirsty, and you and Janine as well. So yeah, thanks for everything you've done over the years as well.
It's my pleasure, and it's lovely to share time with you. All the best to Kirsty and the children and the dog. Have a wonderful day, whatever's left of it, and we look forward to seeing you along the way. Must have coffee soon.
We must, absolutely. Love it. Thanks, Rick.
All the best. Thanks a lot, Darren. Mr. Darren Roberts, everybody. Bye now.